The morning sun cast long shadows across the wheat fields of New Harmony as Jiho wiped sweat from his forehead and checked the irrigation systems one more time. The automated sprinklers hummed quietly, sending arcs of water across the golden crops that stretched to the horizon. 3 years of hard work had transformed this barren planet into something beautiful, something worth protecting. Jiho smiled as he watched children running between the crop rows, their laughter echoing across the peaceful settlement. 8,000 souls called this place home now, and every single one had chosen to leave Earth's crowded cities for the promise of open skies and endless farmland. The rich soil here grew crops twice as fast as anything back on Earth, and the gentle gravity made even the heaviest work feel manageable. Across the valley, Mina called out to the livestock as she filled their feeding troughs. The imported cattle had adapted well to the planet's longer days, growing bigger and healthier than their Earth cousins. Her husband Kyung waved from the cab of his harvester, the massive machine cutting through rows of grain with mechanical precision. Their daughter Yuna helped sort the harvested crops, her small hands quick and sure from years of practice. To anyone watching from orbit, New Harmony looked exactly like what it claimed to be, a simple farming colony focused on feeding the growing human population across the galaxy. The residential domes clustered around the central plaza looked humble and welcoming. Solar panels glinted on rooftops, while wind turbines spun lazily in the constant breeze. Processing facilities hummed with activity as crops were cleaned, packaged, and prepared for shipment to distant worlds. The only hint of security came from Sunho and his small team of guards who patrolled the settlement's perimeter. They carried basic weapons and drove simple vehicles, spending most of their time dealing with the occasional wild predator that wandered too close to the farms. The local wildlife wasn't particularly dangerous, just curious creatures that had learned to associate human settlements with easy food sources. But far above the peaceful colony, hidden in the shadow of the system's largest moon, alien eyes watched every movement through powerful scanners. The Vextar reconnaissance ship had been observing New Harmony for 3 weeks, cataloging defenses and identifying targets. Their sleek vessel remained invisible to human sensors, its advanced cloaking technology perfected through centuries of warfare. Commander Vexcol studied the holographic display showing the human settlement spread out below. His forearms manipulated different controls simultaneously, zooming in on various sections of the colony. The scanner readings confirmed what visual observation had already suggested: no military installations, no defensive barriers, no hidden weapon emplacements, just farmers and their families going about their daily routines. "Pathetic," he hissed through his translator device, his insectoid features twisting with contempt. "These humans scatter across the galaxy like seeds, establishing weak colonies with no protection. They make conquest almost too easy." His subordinate, a younger Vextar with less battle experience, leaned over the scanner display. "Sir, their ships show no military markings. The largest vessel is a cargo hauler designed for crop transport. Should we continue monitoring?" Vexcol's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Continue monitoring? We've seen enough. This colony represents everything wrong with human expansion. They spread thin, prioritize commerce over security, and assume the galaxy will leave them in peace. Today they learn otherwise." He activated the communications array, sending a coded message to the main Vextar battle fleet waiting just outside the system. The response came back within minutes. Assault ships launching, full attack authorized. The Vextar had been raiding human settlements for months, taking resources and prisoners, while testing humanity's response capabilities. So far, the humans had proven disappointingly weak. "Prepare the assault ships," Vexcol ordered his bridge crew. "Deploy 3 squadrons for the initial strike. Target their communication arrays first, then move to capture the processing facilities. We'll take what we need and leave before any human reinforcements arrive." The ship's hangar bay doors opened silently in the vacuum of space, revealing rows of angular attack craft. Each vessel bristled with energy weapons and carried enough firepower to level city blocks. The pilots performed their final system checks, eager for another easy victory against the humans. Down on New Harmony, life continued its peaceful rhythm. Jiho finished his inspection of the irrigation systems and headed home for lunch with his family. Mina loaded the last of the cattle feed and waved goodbye to Kyung as he drove his harvester toward the next field. Children played in the settlements, gardens while their parents worked, all of them blissfully unaware of the danger approaching from above. Sunho made his afternoon rounds, checking the perimeter sensors that had shown nothing unusual for weeks. The only readings came from the local wildlife, small creatures that posed no threat to the colony. His guards remained relaxed, their weapons secured, and their attention focused on routine patrols. None of them knew that in just a few hours, their quiet world would explode into violence and chaos, testing everything they believed about safety and isolation on the galactic frontier. The attack came at dawn, when most colonists were just starting their morning routines. The first sign of trouble was a strange whistling sound cutting through the peaceful air, followed by streaks of purple energy that lit up the sky like deadly fireworks. Vextar assault ships broke through the cloud cover in perfect formation, their sleek hulls gleaming as they dove toward the unsuspecting settlement below. Hyun was pouring coffee in his kitchen when the first explosion shook his house so hard that dishes crashed to the floor. Through his window, he watched in horror as purple beams carved burning trenches across the wheat fields where his neighbors worked just yesterday. The smell of scorched earth and burning crops filled the air as secondary explosions rippled across the farmland. "Kids, get down here now," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. His two children came running down the stairs, their eyes wide with fear as another wave of energy blasts lit up the morning sky. Without hesitation, Hyun grabbed their emergency packs and pushed them toward the hidden entrance to their underground shelter. Every family on New Harmony had these shelters, though most colonists assumed they would never need them. The Vextar ships moved with predatory grace, their weapons systematically targeting what they assumed were the colony's most important structures. The main processing facility erupted in flames as concentrated fire melted through its metal walls. Storage silos collapsed under the bombardment, spilling grain across the burning ground. The aliens had clearly studied the settlement, knowing exactly where to strike for maximum damage. In the communications center, Daeho felt the building shake around him as he worked frantically at his control panel. His fingers moved across the interface with practiced speed, activating emergency protocols that most colonists didn't even know existed. The massive transmission array on his roof rotated automatically, locking onto specific coordinates in deep space. "Emergency frequency Alpha 77 activated," he muttered to himself, typing out the coded message that would change everything. The transmission burst outward at faster-than-light speed, carrying a simple but powerful message across multiple star systems. "Colony under attack. Vextar forces confirmed. Request immediate assistance. Civilian population in danger." The message contained hidden data streams that would tell military commanders exactly what they were dealing with. Enemy ship classifications, weapons signatures, and attack patterns. Daeho had trained for this moment during his military service. Years ago, though he had hoped never to use these skills as a simple communications technician on a farming world. Outside, the Vextar ground forces began landing in the settlement's central plaza. Their dropships were angular, insect-like craft that touched down with mechanical precision. Armored soldiers poured out, their weapons already charged and ready. The alien troops moved in coordinated squads, expecting to find panicked farmers, running in all directions. Instead, they found something completely unexpected. Jisoo emerged from what appeared to be an ordinary barn, but the weapon in his hands was anything but ordinary. The military-grade plasma rifle hummed with lethal energy as he took cover behind a grain transport and opened fire on the nearest Vexitar squad. His shots were precise and deadly, dropping two alien soldiers before they could react. Across the settlement, Yuna appeared on a rooftop with a tactical communicator in her hands. Her voice cut through the battle noise as she coordinated defensive positions with calm efficiency. "Squad 3, take the north entrance. Squad 7, hold the processing center. All civilians to shelter points now." The colonists responded to her orders with military precision that shocked the attacking Vextar forces. Men and women who had been farming just minutes before now moved like experienced soldiers, taking defensive positions and returning fire, with weapons that had been hidden throughout the settlement. Children disappeared into underground bunkers, while their parents transformed from peaceful farmers into a coordinated defense force. Minho crawled out from beneath his damaged harvester and grabbed a combat rifle from a hidden compartment. The farming equipment that looked so innocent from orbit revealed hidden weapon caches and communication arrays. Even the irrigation system served a dual purpose, with water pipes doubling as conduits for underground communication lines. The Vextar commander, still orbiting above in his command ship, watched his ground assault meet fierce resistance. His tactical display showed his forces taking casualties they had never expected from what was supposed to be a defenseless farming colony. Energy weapon signatures appeared throughout the settlement as the humans revealed their true nature. "How is this possible?" he snarled at his tactical officer. "Our intelligence showed no military presence. These are supposed to be simple farmers." His subordinate studied the incoming data with growing alarm. "Sir, their weapon signatures match standard human military equipment. These colonists are fighting like trained soldiers, not civilians." Below them, the battle intensified as more Vextar reinforcements landed, while the human defenders revealed additional surprises. Automated turrets emerged from concealed positions, their targeting systems already locked onto alien aircraft. The peaceful farming colony had become a fortress, and the Vextar were learning that humanity's expansion strategy was far more sophisticated than they had ever imagined. The emergency signal from New Harmony traveled faster than light itself, racing through the quantum communication network that connected every human settlement across the galaxy. Within minutes, the coded transmission reached military command centers on dozens of worlds, each one responding with the same urgent efficiency that had made humanity's expansion possible. On the orbital fortress above Kepler Station, Admiral Wubin was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his communication officer burst into the command center. The young lieutenant's face was pale as she handed him the decoded message, her hands shaking slightly as she spoke. "Sir, we have a Colony 7 emergency from New Harmony. Vextar attack confirmed. They're requesting immediate military assistance." Wubin's expression hardened as he read the details. Colony 7 was the highest level of distress call in human space, reserved for situations where civilian populations faced complete annihilation. He had hoped never to see one of these alerts, but humanity had prepared for this day since their first steps beyond Earth. "All ships, immediate departure," he commanded, his voice carrying across the bridge of the massive battleship Terrors. "Pride? Set course for New Harmony, maximum hyperspace velocity. Signal the rest of the sector fleet. We're implementing Protocol 7. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across human space, military commanders activated emergency protocols that had been drilled countless times, but never used in actual combat. The message was clear and simple. An attack on any human colony was an attack on all of humanity. Captain Seojin received the alert while her destroyer squadron was conducting routine patrols near the Centauri system. Her 3 ships immediately changed course, their hyperspace engines charging for the long jump to New Harmony. Behind her, the massive shipyards of New Tokyo began launching every available vessel. Cargo ships converted to troop transports, patrol boats loaded with Marines, and heavy cruisers that had been mothballed just days before. The Vextar had made a fatal error in their understanding of human expansion. What they saw as scattered, vulnerable farming colonies were actually carefully positioned nodes in a vast defensive network. Every settlement served multiple purposes, with colonists trained not just as farmers and workers, but as the first line of defense for human civilization. Lieutenant Dong Hyun, monitoring communications at the Mars Defense Hub, watched his display, screen fill with response signals from across the sector. Ships were converging on New Harmony from 17 different systems, their estimated arrival times calculated down to the minute. The human response was like watching a sleeping giant awaken, each muscle responding with coordinated power. "Look at this," he whispered to his colleague. 43 ships already en route, with more launching every minute. The Vextar picked the wrong species to mess with. The truth was that every human colony had been established with defense in mind. Settlers weren't just volunteers looking for new lives. They were carefully selected individuals with military training, technical skills, and the mental toughness needed to survive on the frontier. The peaceful farming communities were a facade that concealed humanity's true expansion strategy. Back on New Harmony, the colonists fought with grim determination, while monitoring their communication channels for news of the incoming fleet. Taehoon crouched behind the wreckage of a grain silo, his plasma rifle hot from continuous firing. The former Marine sergeant had spent 5 years on this peaceful world, but he had never forgotten his training. "Listen up," he shouted to the defenders around him. "Fleet elements are 30 minutes out. We just need to hold our positions until then. Remember your training. Short bursts, conserve ammunition, and keep moving." The Vextar ground forces were learning that these weren't ordinary farmers. Every human seemed to know exactly how to use military equipment, coordinate tactical movements, and maintain discipline under fire. What should have been a quick raid was turning into a costly battle of attrition. Chae-young worked frantically in the underground command bunker that few colonists had known existed beneath the settlement's community center. Her fingers flew across multiple displays as she coordinated supply lines, tracked enemy movements, and maintained communication with the approaching human fleet. The former intelligence officer had spent 3 years pretending to be a simple agricultural coordinator, but her real job was far more complex. "Supply cache 7 is compromised," she reported into her headset. "Redirecting ammunition supplies through tunnel network to positions 12 and 15. Estimated resupply time, 8 minutes. The tunnel network was another surprise for the Vextar forces. What appeared to be simple irrigation and utility conduits actually formed an underground transportation system that allowed the defenders to move supplies and personnel without exposure to enemy fire. The peaceful colony had hidden depths that made it far more formidable than its appearance suggested. Above the planet, Vextar reinforcements continued to arrive, but their commander was growing increasingly concerned about the level of resistance. His forces had expected to overwhelm a defenseless farming community within hours, but the humans were fighting back with military precision and equipment that shouldn't have existed on a civilian colony. The first human warships were already entering the system's outer edge, their sensor arrays locked onto the alien fleet. The battle for New Harmony was about to enter a new phase, one that would show the galaxy exactly what happened when humanity's children were threatened. The first sign that everything had changed came when the stars themselves seemed to shift. Brilliant flashes of light erupted across the darkness of space as human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The Vextar fleet, which had been confident in their overwhelming superiority just hours before, suddenly found themselves trapped in the middle of a growing ring of human military vessels. Commander Vexcol watched his tactical display with growing horror as more ships continued to arrive. What had started as a simple raid against defenseless farmers was rapidly becoming the worst military disaster in Vextar history. The massive battleship, Terra's Pride, materialized directly above New Harmony, its weapons already charging for combat. Behind it came heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels that dwarfed the Vextar attack force. "How many ships are there?" his tactical officer asked, his voice shaking as he counted the new arrivals. "Sir, I'm reading 47 human vessels and more arriving every few minutes. Our intelligence said this sector was lightly defended." Vexcol's mandibles clicked in frustration and growing fear. "Our intelligence was wrong about everything. These humans are not what they appear to be." The human response was like watching a perfectly coordinated dance of destruction. Each ship took its assigned position in the defensive formation, creating overlapping fields of fire that left no escape route for the trapped Vextar fleet. The aliens had expected to face maybe a patrol ship or two, arriving hours after their raid was complete. Instead, they faced the full might of humanity's sector defense force. Jae-hoon led his fighter squadron in a screaming dive through the planet's atmosphere, his 12 craft moving with the precision that came from years of training together. The sleek human fighters were smaller than the Vextar attack ships, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and flown by pilots who knew exactly what they were fighting for. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader," Jae-hoon called over the tactical channel. "Engaging enemy ground support aircraft. Remember, our people are down there. Make every shot count." His fighters swept across the battlefield like avenging angels, their plasma cannons lighting up the sky as they engaged the Vextar aircraft that had been terrorizing the colonists. The alien pilots, trained for combat against other military forces, found themselves outmaneuvered by humans who fought with the desperate efficiency of defenders protecting their homes. But the fighters were only the beginning. Across the new Harmony system, structures that had appeared to be simple asteroids or debris fields suddenly came alive with deadly purpose. Hidden defense platforms that had been quietly waiting for decades revealed themselves, their massive weapon arrays rotating toward the trapped Vextar fleet. The largest platform, disguised as a mining station in the system's asteroid belt, unfolded like a deadly flower. Its hull split open to reveal weapon batteries that could destroy capital ships, along with fighter bays that launched additional squadrons of human interceptors. The Vextar had been so focused on the apparently defenseless planet that they had never suspected. The system itself was one giant fortress. "Automated defense grid is now active," came the calm voice of the system's defense coordinator. "All hostile vessels are locked and targeted. Surrender now or face immediate destruction." On the ground, the battle turned rapidly as the human colonists dropped their peaceful facade completely. Binge emerged from what had appeared to be a simple equipment shed, but he was now wearing full combat armor and carrying weapons that belonged on a battlefield, not a farm. His militia unit moved with the precision of veteran soldiers, because that's exactly what they were. "2nd Battalion, advance on the enemy landing zone," he commanded through his tactical communicator. 1st and 3rd Battalions, flank from the north and south. These invaders are about to learn why you don't mess with human civilians. The Vextar ground forces found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. The humans used the terrain with perfect efficiency, turning familiar farmland into killing fields. Every building, every piece of equipment, every defensive position had been planned and prepared for exactly this scenario. Youngmin's engineering team activated defensive systems that had been hidden in plain sight for years. The irrigation pumps became automated weapons platforms, rising from underground positions to provide covering fire. Solar collectors rotated to reveal sensor arrays that guided precision strikes against enemy positions. Even the livestock pens contained hidden weapon caches and communication equipment. The peaceful farming colony revealed itself to be what it had always been, a military outpost disguised as civilian infrastructure, staffed by soldiers who happened to grow crops in their spare time. Every colonist had been selected not just for their farming skills, but for their military training and their ability to defend human territory against exactly this kind of attack. In orbit, Commander Vexcall sent increasingly desperate messages to his superiors, begging for reinforcements that he knew would never arrive in time. His fleet was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely trapped by an enemy force that had appeared as if from nowhere. "Request immediate evacuation," he transmitted, his voice filled with the desperation of a predator who had suddenly become prey. "We are facing the full human military response. This is not a farming colony. Repeat, this is a military installation. We need immediate support, or we will be completely destroyed." The response from Vextar High Command was silence, leaving the alien commander to face the terrible realization that his forces were completely alone against humanity's awakened war machine. The end came swiftly and decisively. Admiral Soyon's flagship, the massive dreadnought Humanity's Resolve, moved through space like an unstoppable force of nature. Her weapons batteries fired in perfect synchronization, each shot calculated to disable rather than destroy the remaining Vextar vessels. The human fleet wanted prisoners, not just victories. The alien commander watched helplessly as his once proud fleet was systematically dismantled by superior firepower and tactics. Vextar ships that had terrorized dozens of worlds found themselves crippled and drifting, their crews trapped inside powerless hulks. The humans boarded each vessel with military precision, taking prisoners and securing alien technology for study. "This is Admiral Soyon to all Vextar vessels," came the calm voice over the communication channels. "Your fleet is defeated. Surrender immediately and your crews will be treated according to galactic conventions. Continue resistance and you will be destroyed." The remaining alien ships powered down their weapons one by one. Their crews had seen enough of human military capability to know that further resistance was futile. The species they had dismissed as weak farmers had revealed themselves to be the most formidable military force they had ever encountered. On the planet's surface, the smoke was beginning to clear over New Harmony as the colonists emerged from their defensive positions. The settlement showed the scars of battle, burned fields, damaged buildings, and equipment scattered across the farmland. But the community was intact, and their spirit was stronger than ever. Jinwan walked slowly through his wheat fields, surveying the damage with a mixture of sadness and pride. The crops he had tended for 3 years were mostly destroyed, but they could be replanted. The land was still good, and the people were still alive. That was what mattered most. "We'll rebuild," he said to his neighbor Kyung-soo, who was examining the wreckage of his automated harvester. "The fields will grow again, and the next harvest will be even better." Yeonbi worked tirelessly in the medical center, treating wounded colonists and even some injured Vextar prisoners. Her medical training, from her military service years ago, proved invaluable as she organized care for everyone who needed it. The human defenders had fought bravely, but they had also shown mercy to their defeated enemies. The colonists revealed the true depth of their hidden capabilities as they began recovery operations. Engineering teams activated repair systems that had been concealed throughout the settlement. Automated construction robots emerged from underground facilities, beginning the work of rebuilding damaged structures. Supply caches opened to provide everything needed for reconstruction. Youngmin's technical crew worked to restore the settlement's communication arrays, ensuring that New Harmony remained connected to the human network. The attack had damaged some systems, but the colonists had built redundancy into everything important. Within hours, they were back in contact with Earth and the other human worlds. Meanwhile, in the orbital command center aboard Admiral Young-ho's flagship, the captured Vextar commander faced interrogation. The alien officer, once so confident in his species' superiority, now sat in restraints while human intelligence officers asked pointed questions about Vextar military capabilities and future plans. "Your people made a critical error, Admiral," Young-ho said calmly as he studied the alien prisoner. "You assumed that because our colonies appear peaceful, they must be defenseless. You confused our preference for agriculture with military weakness." The Vextar commander's translator device conveyed his response with mechanical precision. "We observed your settlement for weeks. There were no military installations, no obvious defenses. How were we to know?" "That was the point," Young-ho replied. "Every human colony serves multiple purposes. Our people are farmers, miners, researchers, and traders, but they are also soldiers when they need to be. Every settlement is a fortress waiting to reveal itself." The interrogation continued as human intelligence officers gathered information about other potential threats to human space. The Vextar attack had been part of a larger pattern of raids against human colonies, but this defeat would send a clear message to other hostile species across the galaxy. Word of the battle spread quickly through the interstellar community. Traders, diplomats, and military observers from dozens of species learned that humanity's expansion strategy was far more sophisticated than anyone had realized. The peaceful farming colonies that dotted human space were actually nodes in a vast defensive network, capable of calling upon overwhelming military support when threatened. The message was clear and simple. Attacking human civilians carried a price that no aggressor could afford to pay. The species that had seemed so scattered and vulnerable was actually the most dangerous enemy any hostile force could face. Human colonies might look like easy targets, but they were protected by a military machine that would spare no effort to defend its people. As New Harmony began its recovery, the colonists knew they had proven something important to themselves and to the galaxy. They were not just farmers living on a distant world. They were guardians of human civilization, ready to defend their way of life against any threat. The wheat fields would grow again, the livestock would return to their pastures, and children would play in the gardens. But everyone who had witnessed the battle would remember that beneath the peaceful surface of their colony lay the strength and determination that had carried humanity to the stars. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would not be forgotten. Humanity's colonies might appear simple and defenseless, but they were backed by a war machine that would spare no effort to protect its people. The end